Hey everyone, welcome to Clear English Daily, where we believe that learning English should feel like a conversation with a friend, not like you're being judged every second.
And I'm Mike.
So today I want to talk about something that I think is silently sabotaging your English progress, and it's something you're probably doing to yourself right now without even realizing it.
What is it?
You're being way too hard on yourself. You're criticizing yourself for every little mistake. You're getting angry at yourself for not being perfect. You're telling yourself that you should already be fluent by now. And that voice in your head is absolutely destroying your ability to actually learn and grow.
That sounds intense. Do you do that?
I do it constantly. I still catch myself doing it, even after all these years of learning English. I'll say something and immediately I'm like, why did I say it that way? That was stupid. I should know this by now.
So you're criticizing yourself in real time?
In real time, while I'm speaking, my brain is also judging every word that comes out of my mouth, which means I'm not actually present in the conversation. I'm in my own head, being mean to myself.
Before we go deeper, one small thing. If you've ever felt like you're not good enough at English, or if you've been hard on yourself for making mistakes, please subscribe to Clear English Daily and give us a like. This episode is for you, and we want you to hear that you're doing better than you think.
And in the comments, tell us something real. Tell us the meanest thing you've ever said to yourself about your English. What's the criticism that comes up most often? Is it about your accent, your grammar, your speed? Just tell us one thing so you're not alone in this.
We read every comment, and we care about what you're going through.
So here's what I realized about being hard on yourself. It's actually not helping you get better. It's doing the complete opposite.
How is that possible? I thought being critical helped you improve.
That's what everyone thinks, but there's a huge difference between being critical and being compassionate. Being critical means you're being mean to yourself. Being compassionate means you're noticing where you need to improve and then encouraging yourself to keep going.
So one helps and one doesn't?
One helps and one actually makes everything worse. When you're being mean to yourself, your brain goes into a defensive mode. You become scared of making mistakes because you know you're going to judge yourself for it.
So you start avoiding speaking?
Exactly. You start avoiding situations where you might make a mistake because you know your own voice is going to come in and tear you apart for it. And when you avoid speaking, you don't get better. You actually get worse because you're not practicing. Let me tell you what happened to me. I was taking an English class and there was a moment where I had to speak in front of everyone. It was this class discussion thing.
Okay.
And I prepared something to say. I had written it down, I had practiced it, I was ready. But when it came time to speak, I opened my mouth and I messed up the first sentence. I used the wrong tense or something small like that.
So what happened?
And my brain just shut down. I was so angry at myself for making that mistake in front of people that I couldn't even continue. I just sat there frozen, completely humiliated.
Did you try again?
I couldn't. The voice in my head was so loud. It was saying things like, "You're so stupid. Everyone is judging you. You should know this. You've been learning English for years. This is embarrassing."
So the mistake spiraled?
The mistake became this huge thing because of how I was talking to myself about it. The actual mistake was tiny, but my internal criticism made it enormous.
And how did that feel?
It felt terrible. I felt ashamed. I felt like I had failed. And for the next week, I didn't want to speak in English at all because I was still carrying that feeling of embarrassment.
So the self-criticism cost you a whole week of practice?
A whole week of avoiding English because of one small mistake that my own voice made me feel terrible about. And that's when I realized something important.
What did you realize?
I realized that I was the problem, not my English, not my ability, me. My own internal voice was the thing stopping me from learning.
So what did you do about it?
I made a decision. I decided to talk to myself differently. When I made a mistake, instead of being mean to myself, I decided to be kind.
How do you be kind to yourself about a mistake?
Well, the next time I made a mistake in a conversation, I caught myself before the critical voice came in, and I said to myself, "Okay, you made a mistake. That's good. That means your brain is learning. That means you're pushing yourself."
That sounds really different.
It sounds simple, but it completely changed everything. Because when you're kind to yourself about mistakes, they stop feeling like failures. They start feeling like information.
Information?
Yes, when you make a mistake and you're not being mean to yourself about it, you can actually notice what happened. You can think about why it happened. You can learn from it. But when you're being critical, you're just in panic mode and you don't learn anything. I started experimenting with this. Like every time I made a mistake, I would pause for a second and I would notice something good about what I just did. Even if I made a mistake, I would find something I did right.
Like what?
Like, I might say something with the wrong grammar, but I said it with good pronunciation. Or I might forget a word, but I used a creative way to explain what I meant. Or I might mess up the tense, but I managed to keep the conversation going instead of shutting down.
So you're looking for what went right.
I'm shifting my focus from what went wrong to what I can celebrate. And that shift is so powerful because suddenly you're not seeing yourself as a failure, you're seeing yourself as someone who's trying and making progress.
Did this actually change things?
It changed everything. Within like 2 weeks of being kind to myself instead of critical, I was speaking more. I was making more mistakes, which meant I was taking more risks, and I was learning faster because I wasn't paralyzed by fear of judgment. And here's the thing that really struck me. I realized that I was never going to be perfect at English. Like, that's just not a thing that exists. Nobody is perfect at any language, not even native speakers.
So why are you expecting yourself to be?
Right. I was setting myself up for failure by expecting perfection from myself. And the moment I let go of that idea, everything became easier.
How did you let go of it?
I started telling myself the truth. I would say things like, I'm learning. I'm not supposed to be perfect. Native speakers make mistakes too. Mistakes mean I'm growing.
And you actually believed that?
At first, I didn't, but the more I said it to myself, the more I started to believe it. And the more I believed it, the less critical I was of myself.
So you were reprogramming your own brain.
I was reprogramming my internal voice, because for years, my internal voice had been critical and mean, but I could change that voice if I wanted to. And I want to tell you something else that happened. When I stopped being hard on myself, people started treating me differently too.
How so?
Like, I was more relaxed in conversations. I was less defensive. I was more open to feedback from other people. And because of that, people were more open to me, too.
So your attitude changed how people treated you?
My attitude absolutely changed how people treated me. When you're not being hard on yourself, people can feel that. They feel more comfortable around you. They're more willing to help you.
And for English specifically?
For English specifically, people were more patient with me. They would give me time to think of a word. They would help me if I asked. They would be genuinely interested in what I was trying to say, instead of judging me for how I was saying it. I think the biggest thing I learned is that there's a difference between holding yourself accountable and being cruel to yourself. And I was confusing the two.
What's the difference?
Accountability is like, I want to improve, so I'm going to notice where I need to work. But cruelty is like, I'm not good enough and I'm beating myself up about it. One is forward-focused and kind. The other is backward-focused and mean.
So accountability is helpful.
Accountability is so helpful. You can absolutely notice that you want to improve your pronunciation or your grammar, but you can do it in a way that's encouraging, not discouraging.
How do you stay accountable without being mean?
You make a plan. You decide what you want to work on, you work on it, and then you celebrate your effort, not just the outcome. You celebrate that you're trying, not just that you're perfect. Because here's the truth. Effort is the only thing you can actually control. You can't control how fast you learn. You can't control whether someone understands you, but you can control whether you show up and try.
So celebrate the effort.
Celebrate the effort every single time. You spoke English today? That's worth celebrating. You made a mistake and you kept going? That's huge. You practiced 10 minutes even though you didn't feel like it? You're amazing.
And that actually makes you better.
It makes you so much better because now you're motivated to keep going. Instead of being discouraged, you're energized. You want to practice more because you're celebrating yourself.
This is actually making me think about how I treat myself in general, not just with English.
I know, right? This stuff applies to everything in life. But for English specifically, it's so important because learning a language is hard. You're constantly putting yourself in uncomfortable situations. You're constantly making mistakes in front of people. You need to be your own cheerleader, not your own critic. So before we move on, let me ask you, what would you tell a friend who just made a mistake in English?
I would probably tell them it's fine, that everyone makes mistakes, that they're doing great.
Right. So why wouldn't you tell that to yourself?
That's a really good question.
That's the thing. We're so much meaner to ourselves than we would ever be to someone else. And I think it's time to change that pattern. Okay, let's look at some of the important words we've been talking about today.
Yes, let's do vocabulary.
You can just listen or repeat if you want. No pressure.
First word is criticize. When you criticize, you point out faults or problems with something. You judge it negatively.
For example, I used to criticize myself for every mistake I made in English. Or, instead of criticizing yourself, try to be encouraging.
Repeat. Criticize.
Next, sabotage. When you sabotage something, you deliberately damage it or make it fail. Usually, it's yourself doing it to yourself.
For example, I was sabotaging my own English progress by being so hard on myself. Or, when you're too critical, you sabotage your own chances of improvement.
Repeat. Sabotage.
Next, defensive. When you're defensive, you try to protect yourself because you feel attacked or threatened.
For example, when I was being mean to myself, I became defensive in conversations. Or, she got defensive when people gave her feedback about her English.
Repeat. Defensive.
Next, compassionate. Compassionate means you feel empathy and kindness towards someone. You care about their feelings.
For example, I learned to be more compassionate with myself about my mistakes. Or, a compassionate teacher helps students feel safe making errors.
Repeat. Compassionate.
Next, phrase is accountability. Accountability is taking responsibility and being willing to improve based on results.
For example, I wanted to stay accountable for my English improvement, but I did it with kindness instead of cruelty. Or, accountability without judgment is the secret to real progress.
Repeat. Accountability.
Next, spiral. When something spirals, it gets bigger and bigger, usually in a negative way. It goes out of control.
For example, one small mistake spiraled into this huge thing in my head because I was being so critical. Or, her anxiety spiraled when she kept criticizing herself.
Repeat. Spiral. Next, shift focus. When you shift focus, you change what you're paying attention to. You look at something different.
For example, when I shifted my focus from what went wrong to what went right, everything changed. Or, he shifted his focus from perfection to progress, and suddenly he was happy.
Next, accountable. When you're accountable, you take responsibility and you're willing to improve and change.
For example, I hold myself accountable for my English improvement, but I do it kindly. Or, she's accountable to herself to practice every day.
Repeat. Accountable.
And our last phrase is cheerleader. A cheerleader is someone who encourages you and supports you. They want you to win.
For example, you need to be your own cheerleader, not your own critic. Or, having a cheerleader in your corner makes all the difference when you're learning something hard.
Repeat. Cheerleader.
So those are our 9 words and phrases for today. Pick one and try using it this week.
Write a sentence in the comments if you want.
Every time you listen, you catch something new.
So, here's what we want you to try this week. The next time you make a mistake in English, I want you to do something different.
Instead of being critical, I want you to pause for a second, and I want you to find one thing you did right, no matter how small.
That's it?
That's it. One thing. Maybe you pronounced one word correctly, even if you got the grammar wrong. Maybe you communicated your idea, even if it wasn't perfect. Maybe you kept the conversation going instead of shutting down.
And then what?
And then, tell yourself that thing. Say it out loud if you can. Say, I got that word right. or I communicated my idea, or I kept trying even though it was hard. And notice how it feels different. Notice how your energy shifts when you're celebrating something instead of criticizing something. How long should I do this? For at least a week. Give yourself a full week of this practice. 1 week of noticing what you did right instead of what you did wrong. See what happens to your confidence and your willingness to speak.
And if you want to tell us, write in the comments. Finish this. The mean thing I usually say to myself about my English is blank, and instead I'm going to say blank.
2 blanks. The criticism, the encouragement to replace it with.
When you write it down, you're making a commitment to change that internal voice.
We read every comment, and we see people who are ready to be kinder to themselves.
And if today made sense to you, please share this episode with someone.
Share it with someone who's being too hard on themselves about English, someone who's stuck in the cycle of self-criticism.
Because you might be the voice that helps them stop being so mean to themselves.
Tap like, subscribe, and share. You might change someone's whole perspective today.
Your internal voice is powerful. It either builds you up or tears you down.
I really mean that. Every single day, you have a choice about how you talk to yourself. You can be your own critic or your own cheerleader. And when you choose to be your own cheerleader, everything changes. Your confidence goes up, your willingness to take risks increases, your English gets better faster because you're not paralyzed by fear.
You're actually free to learn and grow.
You're free to make mistakes and learn from them instead of being destroyed by them. You're free to celebrate your progress instead of focusing on how far you still have to go.
Start today.
Start today with 1 kind word to yourself about your English, 1 celebration of something you did right, 1 moment where you choose encouragement instead of criticism. That 1 moment is the beginning of everything changing.
I'm Mike.
I'm Sarah. Thank you for listening.
Be kind to yourself. You're doing better than you think.